Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management? Alec Durand is an estate planning attorney with Annex. Welcome back.
Hi, Danny.
For many, some of our best memories, the summer place, maybe a family cottage, lake house, cabin, they're near and dear and often a strong desire to keep those special places in the family. Easier said than done. When the time comes to assign new ownership and responsibility, good planning pays off. Alec, let's start at the top. I guess when this thing's going to move, first question is, should you pass the property down?
Yeah, it's sometimes not a question that's considered. It's usually a given. We're going to pass it down, and time needs to be taken to think, is it worthwhile or can you afford to do it? In hand with estate planning goes a good financial plan. Sometimes you might need the cash value of that property to hold on to or fund your life down the line. So you can't always pass it down. You need to do an analysis to determine if you can before you decide how to do it.
So in line with that question is, who will inherit the property?
Yeah, and this comes down to oftentimes a family discussion. Usually people are planning on keeping it in the family, but that's not always going to be the case. And just because you love the family cabin, you have those great memories there, it doesn't always mean that your intended beneficiaries want to keep the property. Things might be well and good while they're not paying for the property, and it's worthwhile to have the discussion of, do they want it first before deciding where is it going to go?
It's a huge responsibility. I mean, if it's a lake place, you've got the pier, you've got the boat or boats, you've got maintenance, you've got a yard maybe even.
Property taxes are one also that doesn't get thought about a lot.
No, until it's too late. We're with Alec Durand, an estate planning attorney at Annex Wealth Management. We're talking about keeping the family cabin in the family. So back to your comment about skin in the game, much of that skin does tend to be financial, and we were talking about that. I mean, these things cost money.
Yeah, and even if they cost money, that might be an easy question. Yes, your beneficiaries are willing to take it on, but how are they going to pay for those things? Is it going to be one person footing the bill? Is everything going to be equal? Is it split up based on use? Without a clear plan in place, that can get contentious pretty quickly. One easy way to address that, or one of the most common ways at least, is something called a use agreement. That's where all of the people that are involved in the ownership and operation of the property get together and they map out in writing how things are going to be paid for. When do professionals need to get involved? When are you going to do it yourself? That's not the only option, but it is far and away the most common way, and it can be a fantastic way to just smooth out how operations are going to work when going to the next generation.
Let's say the next generation is 5 kids. They all pretty much need to be on the same page, right, and agree to this use agreement?
They do. Everyone that's involved has to agree to it. And while it can help smooth things out, at the end of the day, it is a contract.
Yeah.
So if people aren't going to agree to it, it still can get contentious.
All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. A client shares a desire to keep a place in the family, including passing it down in some form. You walk us through some of the possibilities?
Broadly speaking, there are 4 ways to pass property down to the next generation. You can gift it, you can sell it, you can leave it on death with a non-probate designation. Those are common, and not every state allows that, but Wisconsin's one of them. It's called a transfer on death deed. And the last option is you just leave it in your estate and you rely on a trust or a will or probate to resolve where it's going to go after you pass. Those are the 4 broad categories. Within that, there are nuance to how you can pass property. One of it being entities. The 2 most common being LLCs and irrevocable trusts. There's pros and cons to each, and a lot of it comes down to taxes. Is there going to be a step up? How are you going to pay for expenses within the entity? Those things can be great for long-term management and operation of the property, but they can get complex pretty quickly. And it takes thoughtful planning ahead of time before you really implement that process.
You've probably seen just about every case of how long this takes, but how long does this take?
As long as it's going to be for you to get everyone on the same page.
Wow, okay, so that could be a while.
Well, it can be a while, but a lot of it comes down to what do you want to do? And that can oftentimes be the biggest holdup in this process, is what do you actually want to do? And you have to think that through. How are things going to get paid for? Who's going to get the property? What happens if an intended beneficiary isn't around? What if you want things to go to a child and they get divorced? Are you going to address that ahead of time or after the fact? If we can get ahead of the ball on that, that's where we want to be. So the planning is oftentimes going to take the longest part, but the actual implementation and the drafting of the documents can go relatively quickly. It's just, do you have everything in place when you need it?
Get it done right.
Get it done right.
Alec Durand is an estate planning attorney at Annex Wealth Management, talking about the family cabin and the way to transfer it if that is your choice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.